long do you want me to talk for?
That's enough. That's good.
Sounds like they're going to roll the video.
fxguidetv Live at NAB 2013 from Las Vegas is sponsored by The Foundry, developers of creative tools for artists, including Nuke, Hero, Mari, Moto, and more. With additional support from Blackmagic Design, Miller Tripods, Rode Microphones, SohoNet, and the Wooden Camera Company. This netcast is also made possible by the contributions of our FX Insider members.
We are live here at NAB.
For the second year in a row.
Second year in a row, second time to chime. We've got a great day of programming planned for you guys. A lot of great Nuke and Foundry demos, a lot of coverage of show floor, the latest camera announcements, things like that.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a whole lot of stuff here from the show floor. We're also going to be crossing over here to the Foundry booth where we'll be having presentations from users, from people. We've got people dropping by with gear, with cameras, with a ton of stuff.
But it's not just us. Mr. Huser is behind the scenes right now directing the feed that you're seeing along with Ryan Pribble. Hey guys, how's it going? Crammed in there. So really a lot of stuff behind us, a lot of cool stuff going on today.
Clearly we've spared no expense to get them a really big lush room with comfy sofas and just like tons of stuff to do stuff.
Now one of the things that we've done this year is really hopefully going to kick up the kind of questions that we get from you guys online. So if you have a question, use the hashtag FXGNAB and we'll try and get your questions because man, we've got a killer Nuke tech demo coming up that you guys are going to go crazy about, and I'm sure you're going to have questions about it.
Yeah, you bet. In fact, that's one of the really great things about doing stuff here. We can do stuff here, we can see the stuff from the Foundry, and also we can answer your questions. So we've got Ted coming in from Red, we've got a bunch of people like Stu Mashewitz coming in later in the show. If you've got any questions, hit the hashtags. Now last year, we didn't have a dedicated social media person. This year we do, so we want to test this hard. So yeah. Post your ideas.
And as we said in the open, a big thanks to our FX Insider members, our sponsors, as well as Shutterstock, who's providing us with stock footage of Vegas, along with our own footage.
Yep, we got Rode mics here. We actually got our kind of dream team. We got Rode mics on here. We got Miller tripods doing stuff. Wooden cameras giving us gear. And we've got the cameras from Blackmagic Cameras. All of the stuff you're seeing today is going to be out on Blackmagic Cameras. And of course, our primary sponsor, the Foundry.
Yeah, so throughout the day, what we're going to be doing is cutting some nice demos in the Foundry floor, interspersed with some interviews and packages on the floor. Some interviews, we're talking to folks from like Philippe Suero is going to give us an update because I believe it was a year ago they introduced Smoke on Mac, wasn't it?
Oh, really?
Was it? Has it been that long, I think? But anyway, we'll get lots of cool stuff like that.
Well, it's been like several years since they announced that they were going to have the red, new Epic chip. And that is actually shipping here. And they've got a clean room here at NAB, an actual clean room. I can't believe they even built that here.
And of course, Jason Wingrove is going to come by as well as part of the RC section, which is coming up around 11 o'clock here on the West Coast time, immediately after some.
So that's about almost an hour from now.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, well, let's go ahead and cross to our first demo, and it's the Foundry. It's going to be Matt Pleck, as well as John Wadelton, who is the new product manager. So let's go ahead and cross that now.
Okay, so welcome to the Foundry booth. Tuesday, second day of NAB. I'm in September already.
That is why I love live TV.
Our booth.
That is why I love live TV.
We have a Nuke tech preview coming up. John Wadelton, Nuke product manager, will be showing some cool stuff along with the help of Matt Pleck to my right here of stage. So the boys have got some really, really cool stuff to show. So I'm going to shut up and hand it over to them. So over to you, my darling.
Great. Thanks, Bex. Hi, everyone. How you doing? So we're pretty much going to show kind of the stuff that we do in the tech labs at the Foundry. So it's a tech preview, not released yet, something that's coming later. And we're not going to give you an unspecified time right now. And we're going to show you kind of not just Nuke, we're going to show you Hero, we're going to show you Nuke, and we're going to show a combination of the two kind of working together. And then we're also going to show some really nice stuff with asset management stuff that Matt is going to show you as well. So let's jump into it. I'm going to start in Hero here, and we're going to work on this Grolsch commercial here inside Nuke and Hero. So I've kind of half conformed this. I'm just going to complete the conform just to show you how that works. So I'm just going to bring in my graded EDL. I'm going to match my media on the graded EDL to bring in the correct plates. So Hero just finds all that footage, and that's come in correctly. Just going to also drag my graded timeline down the bottom here. So let's put that down there. I'm going to rename that graded. And then I'm just going to bring in my elements here. I've got a couple of elements of Steam, so we're just going to match media on those guys as well. And where are we? In extras, I think is the Steam there. Okay, so we've done our conform really quickly. I'm just going to, because of paranoia, save this file now. Okay, save that file. And now we're going to just check our offline just to see what we need to do. So I'm just going to go over here, hit 1 on the keyboard, just like you would do a Nuke, and check what's going in my offline to see the work that I need to do. So we've got a logo that we've got to push in there. We've got those steam elements, so you can see the kind of steam coming off out of the guy's mouth. We've got to do a push in on this shot. There's a wire up there. We've got to do wire removal and stuff like that. So let's start work on this. I think I'm going to start from the money shot right at the end. Don't worry, I will do that. First thing I'm going to do to make this sensible is just rename these shots. So at the moment, they've got the names that the editor gave them, kind of crazy names or whatever. I want to make this a bit neater, so I'm going to rename the shots. Right-click on this, rename shots. Hero does this really nicely. Give us a new name. So it's going to call it Grolsch, number, start from 1, increment by 1. So if I click on that, it just whips through the timeline and renames all those shots. And now we've got them in a nice kind of names. So let's just go back to viewing that graded source footage. And now what I want to do is I'm going to work on that last shot because I want to do the fun shot and do the titling and all that stuff. So what we're going to do now is, what we would traditionally do in the Nuke Hero workflow here would be probably select everything in the graded timeline there, export out the entire sequence as shots, create folders, create Nuke scripts for them, and then send it off to my team of compositors to work on the clip, right? But today there's just me. I haven't got my team of compositors, so I'm going to have to do the work. So we're going to have to try and do that on this one workstation here, rather than going out to a team of compositors. So let me start with that. So what I'm going to do is click on that last clip there, right-click on it, go Add Effect, and what that's going to do is create a new track up here called Nuke Comps, and then a little slug in there for the comp. And then what I'm going to do is go up to my window menu, and I'm going to swap from my workspace from conforming to compositing. And if I bring that up and then double click on that, what we get now, and this is a really exciting thing that we've been working on, is we get an embedded Nuke directly inside my Hero. So now I can just start compositing straight away within Hero and within the timeline environment. So let me start doing that. Let's just move this comp to the side a bit. I'm going to go over to my media bin over here. I've got the Grolsch logo. I can just drag that over to the DAG like so. Then I'm just going to pre-mult to bring in my alpha, put a transform in, merge that over the top there. And now we've got our Grolsch logo in there. Let's just put our safe zones on so I know where to put the logo. So I put my title safe on, move this guy into the middle. And then we probably need to scale it down a bit. So let's just do that, scale it down into position, and that's roughly what we want. So this is another interesting bit. The typical workflow here with the old Nuke Hero thing would be, let's write out those files, press render, go back into Hero, import the clips back in, right? But with this new version that we've got here, well, from the labs anyway, all I need to do is go back straight into the timeline, and then what it's doing is rendering that directly into the timeline. So I can just press play, and there you go. The logo's in there, ready to go. So no pre-rendering or anything like that. So now that we've got that in there, let's look at the next step, which is adding in the text, the big, bold bold logo. So I'm going to go back into the compositing and then add in that. So let's just move this down slightly. And let's add in our text node. So we've done an all-new version of the text node, text 2, which is the new version. So let's pop that in, text 2. So I'm going to pop that in like that. It's by default, it puts the frame number in there. Let's just scale it up a bit. Probably 180 is probably good. Maybe a bit too big. And let's edit the text directly inside the viewer, which is another new feature. If you can see the cursor there, I'm moving the cursor. I can actually type now directly inside the viewer. So big, bold. And let's finally just change the font to the font that we want. That's looking pretty good. Now I just need to change the color, maybe make it a bit bigger. Let's make it 190. And let's just make sure that our text box is in the right spot according to our safe zones. So there we go, big, bold. Maybe center it as well. Cool. And I think it needs to be black, so we can do that with our new funky color controls built into the panels, new to Nuke. So let's put that down like that. And we need to add that drop shadow. I've got a cool little tool for that called Text Edge. So let's just add that in. So put that into the stream. Pull that guy down there. There we go. So that's looking pretty good. So just one final thing I want to do is a little bit of animation on the kerning. So let's just go to my text again and just do a little bit of animation on the kerning there. So set a key on that. Bring this down over here and pump that up a bit, maybe 1.1, 1.2. Yeah, something like that. And again, all I need to do is see that in the timeline is just go back into the hero timeline, press play, and there we have it with the animation in there. Not looking exactly how the director wanted it, but I'm a bit of a creative kind of guy. I'm just going to give you some different ideas to play with. Right, so once we've got that done, that's probably what the guy, well, the creatives wanted, right? Because that kind of matches the offline. But you know what? While we're here, NAB, let's get a bit more funky and get a bit more creative and do some crazy stuff to it. So what I'm going to do now is, well, I'm good with that version. So he's probably going to want that version. So we're going to keep that. But I'm going to make a new version where I'm going to go all funky on the text. So what I can do is go back into my DAG over here, and then go File, Save New Version. So that makes a new version of that script. And now let's do the funky stuff. So let's go over here. And this is new as well to the new version of Nuke. I can actually select text directly in the viewer. I can set a key. I can go over here. And I can start really getting creative. Let's just move that over there. Move that over there. So I've got individual text key animation. I can keyframe all of this. I've got my dope sheet, my curve editor down here as well, so I can mess with the animation. And let's just put that over there. And let's see what that looks like. Oh, yeah. Now we're getting really creative, right? So I can save that and go back into the timeline. So you can see in the timeline, I've got the old version in there. No problem. We can just go to the new version in the timeline by going version up. And now we've got the new version directly in the timeline, ready to play and show our client. And I'm sure he's really going to like that and want to use that version, right? But just in case, for whatever reason, he thinks that's no good and he wants to go back to the other one, no problem. We can use all the normal versioning features of Hero to pop between the two versions. So I can now go hit the V key, bring in my original version, and I can also just double click on that and bring in the original comp and then manipulate it. Or go back into the timeline, hit the V key again, and bring up the comp for the other one and start manipulating it. So you can see there, this is really powerful because we've got all our different versions within Hero there and really easily go into the comp and change them at any time. Right, so I'm going to stick with that version of the text because I think that's the sexiest one. But now we're going to have to go and do the rest of the comp. So let's go back into the timeline and have a look at what else we've got to do. Let's go back here, scoot back to the beginning. Do you remember we saw that push in the offline? There's no push in there. We also need to do the wire removal. That's got to be done. Then there's a bit of cleanup on this one. There's the steam in that shot that needs to be added. So quite a few things to do. I wish I was really, really fast at doing stuff, but unfortunately, I probably need some help on this thing to get it done in one day. So I'm going to start on it. So what I'll do is do the push in on this shot up over here. So I'm going to add effect. bring up my nuke script there. Let's just do the push in quickly, set a key on the scale, and scoot to the end, and push that up to maybe 1.1 or something like that for the push in. And then go back in the timeline and see what that looks like. So yeah, that push in's looking pretty good. So me as the kind of lead compositor guy, I'm happy with that push in. I'm happy that it looks good in the cut. But what we need to do now is actually go in and remove the wire, right? But while that, well, I'm happy with it creatively. The wire is just a technical thing that's got to be done. I want to go on and do some other work on the rest of the comp, or the rest of the shot, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually get some help here and get Matt to help out and go off and do the wire removal. So I'm going to throw over to Matt now, and Matt's going to help me out a bit. No
Audio.
sound?
Hey. So I'm over another. I've got access to John's disk and shared network disk. Come in here where it's been, and I've got the comps. So I'll just go into his comps folder, and so he's generating these nuke scripts. These aren't being packed up in the hero file where no one can find them because they're bundled in the rest of that timeline. They're just regular nuke scripts right out on disk, the way hero tradition. GH001 here, and there's nuke, and then I've got my nuke script right here. So I'll just open. Okay. Yep. Okay. One second. I'm just going to fire into nuke X70V6. Open that script up, and then I can easily get to work on this and then send it back to John. So of course I want to save some time. He's got his push in on here. That's looking pretty good. But I'm just going to add a wire removal tool. And don't you wish all of your wire removals were so easy? There we go. Magic wire removal for NAB demos. And there we go. We got that wired in. And now I can take a look through here, the timeline. I've got my everything set there. That's looking good. Now, I don't want to write over John's just in case he needs to go back. So I'm going to do the usual version up and save a new version of there. Oops. Sorry, John. I'll make that too. There we go. And now that's back in the disk, everything ready to go.
Cool. All right, so let's switch back to me. Thank you. So now that Matt has done that, meanwhile, I was doing other comp work. But what we can do now is go back into the master hero, just version up, and then in comes that new version, except he's got the right path wrong.
With version 2, I'm sure I did.
Okay, let's just have a look. Version 3, version 2.
Sorry.
No problem. So we've got the new version in there. Now you can see the wire removal has been done. The push-in's still there. Just so I was in a client attend in this session, we've got the wire removal. The client goes, that's really cool, but you know what? That push-in's a bit too intense. Let's fix that up. No problem. I've got the comp available here that Matt has worked on. All I need to do is now adjust that push-in. So I've got my transform over there. Let's just go in here, make the push-in a little bit less intense. So maybe, what do we want to do? Or maybe make it more intense. Why not? Let's make it really obvious. So let's put 1.5. Save that out, look back in the timeline, and now we've got our really intense push-in. Wire removal still holds. It's all good. Let's just press play on that, and then we've got our edit there. So hopefully you can see there that what we've got is a really powerful thing, because we've got an all-in-one station where I can do all my work as a single kind of visual effects artist, but then it's not locked down to being a single thing. We can still share the stuff out and go outside, and Matt can see those files and work on those externally, but then at any point I can bring those back into the master station here and edit those scripts, go back and forward versions and so on. So that shows us scaling from a single person to kind of multiple users, but we still have to kind of shout across the room, go, Matt, can you work on this shot? And Matt needs to go, Oh, John, I finished.
I'll
Update
email
your thing.
You know, I emailed you the new version.
Yeah, exactly.
No
So this is where we're going to cross over to Matt now, who's going to show you the next level, which is how we could scale up from not just a single to a multi-user in one room, but maybe you know, hundreds of users. So
yeah.
Matt.
So a lot of you, we've been talking to you and hearing about the kind of solutions that you're coming up with for this. And basically there are shot tracking, asset management type systems that can really help you go to the next level, working across time zones, different offices, sharing things outside of the office. And so we wanted to see how that could work in a seamless workflow through our applications. So we've worked with our friends over at F-Track to put together a little prototype to see how that's going to work and figure out what we need to do to make it a seamless experience through our applications. I've got the F-Track web view up here. I've just got a new project here, cleaned empty for NAB. And what I'm going to do is start off my job the way I normally would. I'm just going to grab the same project John was doing, but I'm just going to very quickly grab my EDL. I'm going to do the short, ultra short version of it and match media. There's my graded footage. Match that up. OK, ready to go. And I've got to get my clips into Rec 709. There we go. All right, so I've got my timeline here. This is pretty much looking good. I need to rename my shots. If you've seen the hero demos before, you know this routine. Once I've got that set, got my shots named, everything to go. Now, instead of immediately going and setting up my folder structure, I'm going to go over to my F-Track layout here and see that I've got an NAB project. And I'm going to go to my bin and then say Asset Manager Publish Sequence. So what this is going to do is now create all these shots out in that F-Track system. So I don't have to go in there manually clicking through dialogues, adding a shot, adding a shot, adding a shot, putting all this information in. Hero's going to do all this. It's also registering assets for each of the shots. So this media, these clips that are in use, are going to be registered as assets on the shots. And it's going to, we've got the ability to deal with images here, so we're going to stick a thumbnail on them all too. And now if I go back to my F-Track view, I can go to my shots list here. I've got all my shots all ready to go, ready to get worked on. So now I can do my nuke export. So I'll come back here, generate out my folder structure. I've got my preset, so I don't even have to set anything up. I've got all the information I need, my track selected, fire off my export, and before I do that, let's make sure I didn't do one earlier. And I'm in Asset Manager, exports. There we go. Let's just get rid of those so you know I'm not faking it. Export this. Now, this is going to take just a minute longer for each, no, not a minute, a moment longer for each item, because when we write the nuke script, we're tagging the read and write nodes with asset IDs. We're even publishing the nuke script into the asset system, and we're adding a compositing task so we can track time against it and use all the time tracking and shot management features that the shot tracking system provides. So now back here, I can go to my tasks. I can see my tasks here. And maybe I've got a producer or coordinator who's going to go through and assign work and maybe come in here and let's say this time John can do the shot number 1. Oh. And once that's all set up, now John's done enough work today and we're running short on time, so I'm just going to blaze right ahead and fire up nuke. We can go right into nuke and access in exactly the same way, the same systems, and with the same UI. So we want to create this kind of seamless experience with your asset shot management system provider. So now I can see a little view here that's got my NAB sequence, just like I have over in Hero, but I've also got a special one to just show me my tasks. So I can select this, and I can see information on that, and I can say open script. But I don't know what to do yet. So if I'm back here in F-Track, I, as the supervisor, can go through these shots and also have that same information right here. And I can step through my shots, set information on each one. So I'm going to come in here and just say, what needs to be done? Add, push in, remove wire. And then publish away. Just put my comment in. And now, again, it's going to be back in F-Track. I can see my new comment appearing. So anybody with the web view can see what's going on there. And over here in Nuke, I've got the same information. So if I go to my shot, I can see, add the pushing, can't spell today. So I'll just say open the script, pops my nuke script in, and I'm ready to go again. Oops. And I'll just do a quick layout on this to clean it up. And I can add my push in. I've got my little tool sets handy to make this go quick. You should all have such an easy experience. And then we've got that looking good. So I can view it here in Nuke and render this now out. So I've got all my files. Again, everything's set up just like the usual Hero Nuke workflow. I'll just render this one out. But there's something different here now. Because we're working in this whole asset managed workflow, now when I go back to Hero, I can just pick this clip, and rather than building the track off of the other kind of export stuff, I can say, build a track through the asset management system. And now I can say, well, build me a track out of everything that's been published for compositing by choice of user, choose the version. I'm just going to take the latest. And now we get our clip right in there off of the asset system. So I can go continue to refresh this. You'll notice I haven't saved this Hero project at all because I've published the timeline, and I can build other tracks straight out of the asset system. So it makes for much more seamless workflow going back and forth. I don't have to worry about who's got the Hero project open. Oh, will I make a note in here or add a tag and save it over? So we think this is really an exciting way to go. The guys, there's a couple of very tall gentlemen in green shirts back there, towering above the crowd, that you can talk to if you want to know more about F-Track. But there you have it. We'd love to get your feedback on it, how this whole workflow works, how you guys see this kind of thing change. Is it going to change things? What are your requirements? So talk to us about it and let us know.
Yeah. So hopefully you can see there what we've shown you today is it's kind of 3 levels. We've gone from a single workstation where one person can do everything, then we're scaling up to kind of a mid-level thing where we can share out the work to other users within the same project, and then we're going up to an even bigger scale where we can share out work and possibly be co-located and still see all the work in a database somewhere where you can track the time that's been sent on the shards and so on. So that kind of wraps it up right now. I've got 2 more minutes. I can do some more stuff then. Should I show? Okay, if I've got 2 more minutes. Okay, I'll show you one more thing. Should I do a color match or the editing? Editing? Okay.
Do them both. Do them both.
Do them both. I've got 2 minutes.
Speed.
Right. So I've got 2 more minutes. That was your summary, but I'm going to do one more thing. So I'm back in our timeline again here. Now this I think is really cool and powerful as well, but I didn't want to bump it in case we didn't have time. So let's just move this up here. So this is a powerful thing, right? Because the things that we're putting in the timeline are basically nuke scripts as opposed to final renders, we can go in and edit those things and then have the changes from the nuke script ripple through. I'll show you what I mean. Doesn't make sense if I say it like that, but we've got our push in there, right? Push in. We can go in and edit this. So let's just cut that there, maybe move this guy over to the end, move that guy up, move that guy in here. So we've got a really rough edit there where they've decided to, for whatever reason, cut to there and cut back to the push-in. But just say I'm in there and the director or the creative is going, you know what, that push-in, I like the original push-in without the really extreme thing. Can you go back to that version? We're like, oh, I've cut it up now and there's multiple versions. It's going to be okay. Because these are referencing one nuke script, all I need to do is double-click on that, go back to my transform push-in, adjust it. So let's make it back to the subtle one, 0.005. Save that out, back into the timeline. And you remember we cut this up into 2 pieces. And I hit play on that. You can see we've got the subtle cut push-in on both of those. So it rippled through to all of the references throughout the timeline. So I think that's really cool.
That's awesome.
Have I got any more time, Bex, to show one more thing? 1 minute. Oh.
This'll be.
You reckon? You reckon I can do it?
I think you can do it.
You reckon I can do it? Okay, one more thing. One more thing. One more thing. Right, this is another new feature we're going to add to Nuke.
Coming in the next release of Nuke.
Coming in the next release of Nuke.
We've been working on the color matcher.
Yeah, color matcher.
We've heard from a lot of you that you have frequent problems where you've got to match stuff. So John's gone off. He's done a lot of work here, but the client shows up and says, we did a little grade on this shot. Could you, drop this version in of the shot that we've graded, but then, well, we've got a little problem that these other 2 shots need to match that. So you sit down there with your color correction nodes trying to figure out how to match this grade that they've just come up with, and you don't know what it is. So you might remember we had a color matcher tool in Furnace. And we've done a lot of work to improve and do a new version of that. And so what John can do is use that to solve for one of the shots, the shot that's been graded relative to the original, and apply that grade to the other shots in the sequence, even though they're different content.
Yeah, so as Matt was talking there, I was doing the work. So what we've done is we've got this. This is the original grade. This is the one that they want to go to, the new grade. And this is the one that matched grade is generated. So this is like a new grade based on that old one. And you can see it matches the one that we got back from grading really well. So what we can do is export a LUT for that. And now my other two shots that need this grade applied, I can really easily just go add effect on that, add effect on that, double click on it, open up the nuke script, put in my my file transform, add the LUT that we just added, or generated rather, to CSP. And now we've got that grade applied. I can copy that. I can go to the next clip, double click on that, copy that in there, save that. And now we've got that new grade applied to all three shots within however many minutes, rather than having to go and manually do that ourselves, trying to grade all those things. Okay, now that seriously is the end.
That's all we got.
The wind up. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it.
John Montgomery wants to ask you some questions, John.
Okay, no problem. Hi, John.
Well, first of all, really nice version, a new version of Hero. We've got a new course at PhD, and Hugo Guerra says it's phenomenal. But got a couple questions online. Can you drop pre-comp nodes into the nuke node within Hero? Is that something that's on the...
So pretty much anything, any nuke feature is available in there. So you could have your nuke X nodes, your nuke X, your nuke nodes. Actually, one thing I didn't show is I can pop straight into the 3D workspace as well inside Hero there, and that will work fine.
It is just nuke in Hero.
Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. And also, for something like complex transitions, someone was asking, can you add an effect to two clips? Say
yes,
you want to do some kind of...
Yeah, so I didn't show that as well, but if you have two clips side by side, and you select both of them and add an effect, we'll add an overall clip on the top, which contains both those clips, and then you can do your transition.
And at this point, I know it's a tech demo. Any idea, someone asked the obvious question, do you need to own a copy of Nuke X for this to work, or is it too soon?
I guess this is when I go into plead the fifth or whatever.
TBD.
So it's a bit of a tech demo now, so I can't tell you exactly how we're going to structure the pricing and so on. So.
I figured that would be the response. Does anyone have any questions here within the audience? Yeah, hang on, come over.
Is it a whole new it's just a version of Nuke that links to Hero? Is it another Hero? What is it? Is it a whole standalone of it combined?
Yeah, in this demo that we're giving now, they're combined into one thing, but it is the entire Nuke basically inside Hero.
But hang on.
Yeah.
Say that again so everyone can hear.
Right now, they're two separate programs, so this, what you're showing, is just one.
Yes, with everything embedded.
Okay.
But the beauty of it is that everything created in there is still separate, as in there's still separate Nuke scripts on disk, even though this one thing is creating separate Nuke scripts, which is really great because it means that you can still access from an external Nuke. You can access those scripts separately, work on them independently, and then bring them into the whole package.
And if you needed to send shots out to somebody else, you've preset everything up. You can just put those on a FireWire drive, send them out to somebody else, those pre-generated Nuke scripts, because it is just Nuke scripts. They're not embedded as part of the Hero project. They're referenced in.
Yeah.
So one thing I touched on is the new version of Hero. Can you just run down the bullet points of what new? Because I think the reaction to most people online has been that it's much more than a dot release. It's a pretty substantial release, to say the least.
The 1.7.
Yeah.
So the team has done a whole lot of work on making the editing workflow, adding tools, making it faster, easier to get through just hotkey editing. And we've done a lot of work to improve the playback performance, both the decoding part and getting stuff from the memory into the graphics card. And then we've added some additional features to help you control the caching more. So you can pause the caching. When you send the application into the background, it'll automatically pause. So it plays a little bit nicer with other things running at the same time. Then a whole bunch of other little odds and ends to improve the audio exports,
I would say the editing is really good in this version. It's really come of age, the editing. Can you do all the bullet points?
Yeah,
I can't remember all those
We've
crazy...
got a default 2-up view in there now, so you can do source record editing, 3 and 4 point editing. There's insert and overlay edits, on the N and M keys. Some really cool thing, I keep forgetting to show it too. In the viewer now, you can hit the K, so you got JKL, and you can do hold down the K and scrub in the viewer. You do the top, you've got a jog, and in the bottom of the viewer it's a shuttle. So it just really makes it quick to move through things a lot faster.
Oh, and modal editing as well. That's new for 1.7.
Yeah,
so we had customers where accidentally slipping clips or whatever. Now you can go into different modes that make sure you don't screw up your edits. So.
Yeah, so we had just the one super tool to do everything in the timeline. Now there's a whole little toolbar that you might have noticed along the side, and you can use hotkeys to access the tools really fast and work through the keyboard hotkeys to step on frames, step on clips, step on just a range. So it's just really fast. I find it took me about a day of things are different, and then this is so much better.
Well, no wonder Ugo was like, if we're going to teach this course, you got to have 1.7 on, because he's been using it in production for weeks. Okay, well, we're ready for our next presentation, and over to you, Bex.
We so are. So we have a special guest today. Very, very, very excited about this. Woohoo! Andrew Kramer, aka Video Copilot. He's here to show off his optical flares for you.
Yes.
Also, we've got 5 of these to give away in our prize. So go online onto the NAB page. It's on the home page. You can enter the prize draw. They're free. They're amazing. Enter. So I'm going to hand it over to you, darling.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Kramer with Video Copilot, and we develop various software and tools for visual effects, and one of our more popular products is optical flares, and today it is native inside of Nuke. So I thought I'd take you through how it works and talk about some of the more specific features that we designed specifically for the Nuke workflow, and just take you through a couple of different shots and maybe do a few questions at the end. So here we go. So here we've got just a simple scene, and wait for it. And so we want to add some lens flares to this daytime shot, because we don't really need lens flares, but why not? Let's just put a few in there. So what we can do, I'm just going to show you kind of a pre-setup scene, then we'll go through it sort of start to finish. So we've got the optical flares node, which is generating the lens flares from the tracker node. So I've went through, track the headlights, and then we're merging it back over to the top, and we have our lens flares. So if we go over to the optical flares node, we can take a look at some of the different settings. You have the center, you have the position control, and you've got just your main options over your brightness. I can show you just a little bit of performance. So this is 1080p, and we can kind of play through here pretty quickly. Very, very nice performance. The responsiveness is nice. It uses GPU, rendering, so it's a lot faster. But if you're on a render farm, there's an option to disable the GPU and run it through, headless nodes on your render farm without any problem. So that's kind of an easy workaround for that workflow. And we'll get into a couple of these other features. So let's just take a look at, how we might set this up. So we've got some raw footage, and we want to track it. So we'll add a tracker node. And we'll come over here, we'll add a track point, and then we'll try to track this headlight. Perfect. And just a couple little hand tracks here at the end. And for flares, it's good to just allow the flare to go out of the frame. So in the next frame here, we'll just track it all the way out, so that lens flares also create a little bit of halos even though they're outside of the frame, and you can control how much of that fall off is extended beyond the frame using the matte box control, which I can show you in a second. So we'll just go a few more frames here and just drag it out. So we've got our track for our node. So let's go and add our optical flares. Now you can do it 2 ways. You can add it directly to your footage, but it's better to use a merge node, because that way you can
color correct the flare by itself, contrast it, desaturate it, make it look good before you composite it over the background. So we'll just come over here. We've got optical flares. And there it is. We've got a scene for a 3D setup, so it will do real 3D occlusion with lights if you do a scene inside of Nuke. We've got a matte, and we've got our background. So what I'm going to do is a merge node and just stick it into the flow. And we'll hide this tracker. There we go. So it's got a couple of setups. So obviously you have dynamic formats and things. So what we can do is set the format to the footage. And I think this is just 1080p, so we'll switch it over. If you apply it directly to the footage, it'll actually use the source background as its initial position. So I'm just going to initialize the center, the position, and now we can hand animate it, add keys. But the easy thing is just to come over here, link to tracker number 2, track 1, and there we go. It's all dialed in. Now I can go back into the options, which is where all of the lens flares come together. So, and the cool thing, this is all right inside Nuke. So you can come in here, preview your flares, edit your flares. You know, you can save a preset, share it with other artists that are working on a similar shot. If there's a specific lens flare that, you know, is matching to a particular lens, you can, you know, match the same look of the shot. So what's a common thing you know you often have to do? You have to maybe paint out a lens flare to do some roto, add a lens flare back in. So you want to try to recreate that same lens flare. And with all of the different tools, you can use textured images. You can use all sorts of different dynamic elements that you know will help match that lens flare perfectly. So, and we've got a lot of cool presets and things. So, you know, some very detailed flares with real anamorphic sprites from you know from various lenses. You know, so just some really cool different looks, and you hit OK, and then you're using that lens flare. Now, if you want to do multiple positions, so say you have like a spaceship, and there's these 10 lights, and they're all the same light, and you want to have the same little lens flare. Well, in the optical flares, this is a custom feature only in the Nuke version. What you can do is you can go down to the additional 2D flares and add additional flares. So let me just go back to this viewer. So right here we can see we only have one flare coming off of the main light. So I can come in here, add another flare, and set its position to that second tracker point. So you have, I think we have a dozen or so different positions. And you also have a brightness control over the secondary ones. So the global brightness and scale will control all of the flares in that node, but then you have individual control over, you know, specific secondary flares and things like that. Really quick, I think we're running out of time, but really quick, we have another example that I'll show you, and I'm just going to add the optical flares right into the node here. And let me set the background format to 720p. And initialize the center position. So simply, we have a matte layer, and I can connect that to just a simple matte of the foreground render, and drag that into that node. Go to optical flares, turn on the occlusion, and set it to luminance. And depending on the channel that you have, you can use an alpha channel or a mask of some sort. And then let's just set the light radius to about 25, and then let's go back to the output. So as we, let's see, Luma, matte, 20, there we go. One sec, make sure we're rendering our flare in the right position. So move our flare out of this light source right here. And then we'll drag the matte right back into the matte. So now as we scrub through this, we're going to see it blink out behind the different elements. So you can easily create a spaceship, matte stuff out, and all directly right inside of Nuke. So thank you guys for checking it out, and maybe we'll do a couple of questions.
Yeah, let's give Andrew a hand.
Big fan, owner of these plugins, myself. Actually, one thing I'm curious about, and I'm a fan of After Effects, I like working, but is there anything special or different about the Nuke integration because it's such a strong 3D compositing environment?
Yeah, so we actually have some features specifically for the scanline renderer scene inside of Nuke. So if you have, say, a 3D scene and the scene has lights in it, and maybe your scene, you have some trees or something, and the flares need to go behind all of that. Well, instead of setting up a matte, we actually have 3D occlusion built in, so you can actually just turn it on and it'll automatically figure out the depth. So a matte is everything behind it, but the 3D occlusion is if the light's in front of it, it'll be behind it, and then if the light comes in front of it, the flare will render in front. So you have real dynamic, 3D space, and the flares will all respect that, situation. So,
anyone else? Anyone in the audience have any questions for Andrew on this? Wander out.
How's it going, Andrew?
Hey, how's it going?
When you started Video Copilot, did you imagine, was your game plan right from the beginning to get to this level where you were developing plugins and programs, or was it originally just something you started for fun and then it evolved into that?
Sure. I mean, it started from fun. It started from the things that I love doing. I do visual effects as well. So when we built optical flares, it wasn't, oh, let's make a good enough lens flare plugin. It was, we want this to be really impressive. We want to be able to match really high-end lens flares. So it comes from just the attention to detail that you earn from being a visual effects artist, and I'm able to translate that kind of attention into our software. So the fact that other people appreciate it, it makes it worthwhile for us, and we're just happy people are able to use it.
Anyone else?
I have a microphone. Oh, don't be shy. Come on.
Don't be shy, guys. Questions?
Is there any that have come in for you, John?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess one thing I would also touch about, though, is the idea of doing this in an application like Nuke versus After Effects, and working with it in that environment. I mean, what benefits do you see of doing it inside that environment? Not just necessarily specifically to your plugin, but working in that as an effects artist.
Well, having it available natively inside of Nuke, where you're doing primarily visual effects, and lens flares have become a big part of that. With the CG and matching plates, and even with stereo conversion, you're painting out flares, you're adding them back in. So not having to have a step in between using a lens flare plugin, having to go back to another program, having it right inside there, I think it just gives people more freedom to be experimental and make changes at the last moment without having to dread re-rendering it and then being stuck with that position or whatever it is. So having it natively, and it's linked to all the trackers. So when you use that track point for something else and you update that track point, the lens flares are all going to update. So having it all work together, I mean, it's going to save us time and make things better all around.
Well, again, I think your plugin has become almost a standard in the lens flare plugin category.
Thank you.
So again, thanks so much for sharing your time, and we appreciate it. And hey, one thing I want to mention to everyone here, online we're streaming this, and there's a really cool giveaway that's going on that we have with a lot of great prizes. I think NVIDIA product specs.
So we have a NVIDIA card, we have a Kepler card, we have an IOFX card, we have 5 of the optical flares. We also have Nuke, Hero, Mari, Modo. Am I correct? I just want to check with someone. Yes, I believe so. So we've got that on the website. So we also, when you're scanned, you automatically get entered into this prize draw. So get scanned. There's Rachel there, the girls at the front desk, they all have scanners. Now I've got John Wood-Elton back for you. So I'm just wondering if you've got any more questions that have come in for John.
Well, John, I mean, I guess one of the things is, I mean, anything else coming down the pipe that what you've got within the app with that integration? I mean, where do you see that evolving? Now that you actually probably having shown it, actually now have to deliver it as some point in time.
Exactly, yeah.
Can we see that at IBC maybe? No. Sorry.
Yes. Well, there's lots of other cool things that are coming to Nuke as well that I didn't have time to show you. So we had a bit of the text tool, we had the color matcher tool. We've got some really nice other things in there as well. Stuff like, we had the model builder that we added to Nuke 7. We've got a new UV editor for that, so we can create UVs directly inside of Nuke. And that's really enabling us to build 3D models without having to go to an external place.
Yep.
We've got nice new features in just the color tools in general. I showed you the little color wheels inside there, just like nice little UI polish like that. Little changes to the controls, stuff like scopes and stuff like that we're working on as well. So,
I think one thing also that's interesting about your position is you kind of get a gauge for kind of trends and what's going on in the business in general. I mean, by, in other words, getting hammered about stuff that people would like to see in the software. I mean, what are you seeing of what people really, asking for within software trends? I mean, is deep compositing taking off, or is it still fairly niche?
It's still deep compositing is getting there. It's definitely popular. We're having a lot of people using deep compositing now, especially in the film side. So I don't know if you've seen Life of Pi. I'm sure you've all seen that film. Yeah. Awesome film. And MPC Vancouver actually won the VES award for the best compositor, the best shot, compositing shot. And that was actually done with the deep compositing system inside of Nuke. So it is getting out there and being used quite a lot, but we still are seeing it pretty much in the high end. What we really need is more renderers to get on board and write out these files. And I know the guys from Houdini and other vendors like V-Ray and so on are working on that. So I think we're going to see it. When they can write out those deep files, you're going to see lots of other people be able to use that technology. And it is really interesting because it gives you the ability to do stuff much later in the pipeline. You can change stuff in the composite that previously would have required a round trip back to 3D, and that's pretty exciting.
Well, and some of the stuff, I remember there was a demo in Planet of the Apes. There's some great examples of how it actually makes those tools actually make it easier to do kind of simple tasks like masking, rotoing, placing items in depth planes and things like that. I mean, just really streamlines the process.
Yeah,
got a lot of data that goes with it.
Yeah, there is. That's true. There is a lot of data, and that shot, like the Planet of the Apes ones that your examples from, there's so many changes of depth all the way through. The apes are leaping over cars, and there's things occluding stuff, and it's changing all the time. And with the deep compositing setup, they pretty much just had to merge them all together, and it self-composites everything in the right order, and it's kind of done, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it has advantages, but then again, there's a storage overhead to it, so, yeah.
And anyone here have an opportunity to ask him any questions. It's a brilliant opportunity to put him on the spot. We'll give you free swag. It's a great question. He's in the hot seat. Anyone have any questions? All right, well, I'm going to let these guys get set up. We're going to cross over to the live stream, and I'm going to let the folks on the live stream know what we've got going on.
Okay, sounds good, John. Well, thank you so much, guys.
So I'm joined by Jason Wingrove, who just stepped off the booth momentarily. That's live for you. How are you, Jace?
Very good. That's how much of a trained professional I am.
Okay, so they've just finished up on the Foundry tech demo. In about 15 minutes, we'll be starting the RC live, but we thought we'd just do a preview of that and have a quick look at what's been happening around the show. So how's it been for you?
It's been fantastic. I think we need to maybe try and move this show to later in the week so we actually have time to see it all. I know everyone sort of talks about this being a really big show, but it's really, really hard, even with all day for 2 or 3 days. Hey,
Ted, how are you?
Ted, good to see you.
So, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
We're just saying that the RC is going to be starting in a few minutes, and we thought it would be great to talk with you.
Sure.
In particular, we were really keen to find out about what possessed you to build a clean room on the floor of the show.
What possesses us to do anything that we do, right? For the many years that we've been doing things with Red. You guys, of course, are ultra early adopters. I think, wow, what possessed us to do it?
Okay, let me give some people some stats, though.
Okay, yeah.
A normal room, like my house, 35 million particles per cubic meter.
Correct.
A clean room, 12. Not 12 million, 12. And you built one on the floor to put in, to install?
So what are we doing? Okay, so we thought it would be an interesting idea to demonstrate what we do. So we're in Nevada now, in the United States of America, for whoever's watching around the world. Our cameras are built in the US, which is a big deal for a high-end electronics company. Many people make the instant assumption that tools of this kind of sophistication can only be built in Asia, which is not actually the truth, as we proved. So to actually really prove it, we said what we can do is bring a small version of our line in Orange County, California, And it's real. It's not just like some sort of like set up kind of fake thing. It's the real
as
deal.
you're talking, we'll put up some photos of the clean room so they can see if they haven't seen it. But yeah, it is an actual room with actual...
We are upgrading sensors from 5K, the original MX 5K Epic sensor that you guys are using, to the 6K Dragon, and we're doing it on the show floor of NAB. And it's the true clean room. We actually have every step. They're disassembling cameras. They're putting the sensor and the low-pass filter in. They're reassembling the cameras, which is actually 3 steps. You saw the 3 little isolation chambers. It goes into back focus, checking for blemish, checking sensor calibration and quality. It goes to an environmental chamber called a Haas chamber, which takes it from super, super cold to super, super hot.
So that's the heat cycling, yeah, I saw that, yeah.
To make sure that the camera is going to be viable for production use. Then it goes to something called burn-in. There's probably 50 or 60 cameras on that burn-in line. And then it goes to laser etching to put the Dragon thing on it. And then the last piece of the puzzle, which I think is actually really cool, is there's the final QC step. There's QC every step of the equation, and anyone can stop the line.
I was going to say, I like the guy at the QC.
Very end.
Yeah.
So anybody can stop the line at any time if there's a problem. But the final QC guy, he literally has no supervisor at Red other than the camera itself. So the camera is his boss. And if the camera says, I'm not ready for whatever reason, he pulls the line, pushes the button, and goes, we're stopping right now. It doesn't matter how much the demand is and how many customers need it. We got to fix that problem. So the cameras are very reliable because of that, which is a pretty cool thing. And you can actually see him doing it in the booth.
Absolutely. So Jace, you had a question about the Dragon sensor and its availability, right? Like for somebody that isn't...
Like you guys, like the first ones that will get it, yeah?
Yeah, kind of something like that, yeah.
So, with everything with Red, as you guys know, for living with us from the very beginning, it's always subject to change based on engineering deliverables and all the change that happens when you push the envelope so hard. But we're upgrading the first batches of cameras now. They'll go out to projects. Customer cameras are going to start next week probably, and then we're taking orders for the early adopter group, started yesterday. The rest of the group of Epic owners can start ordering the last day of NAB. So you guys, anybody that owns an Epic M or early adopter has a window of time to make sure they get theirs first. So plug that in. So I would say if you're very optimistic, we're looking at late summer. If you apply a little bit of engineering reality to that, it's probably summer into fall is when the cameras will be shipped.
We've been talking, and there's been tweets coming in. So I have some quick questions for you, but you have to give me quick answers. Okay. All right. So question number 1 was, where the hell is the projector?
Good question. Projector is in retool, re-engineer, and when it came clear to us a few months ago that it wasn't really ready to show in its final form, it was like, stop putting any marketing effort into getting that ready to NAB and keep focusing on building it and getting it to market.
Is there any timeline?
No timeline.
Okay. The next question we had
That was fast, right?
Yeah, no, that's good. The next question we had is this Red Rocket 2.
Yeah, Rocket X we call it. Yeah.
Do I need that, or can I use the old one?
You can use the old one, but if you're going to be moving to Dragon and you want 6K decode at proper speed, 5K decode at, we're right at the threshold with 5K, especially full frame 5K on the existing Rocket. The sensor's caught up faster than that technology, right? So the new Rocket, I would say, if you're doing high-end post, day-to-day production on a medium to size movie or TV show, you're going to want the new Rocket.
Okay, and my last question. You go.
Okay, but in relation, is it you're gonna get, let's see, a fifth of the performance, or a fraction, or?
So the engineer than the original Rocket. It actually goes up market a little bit. It's a few $1,000s more expensive unless you buy it with your Dragon upgrade, and then it's actually a little less expensive. So you can see all the pricing on the web. But
I guess the real world question is: Are you going to be able to live with the original Red Rocket with a Dragon?
Depending on what you're doing. If you don't need all-time, real-time 4K playback, yes. If you want to be at the cutting edge of where technology is sitting, then you want those, like if you're doing high-end professional posts, a couple of grand either way isn't what makes your bones. It's getting the job at the best possible workflow. And if you
want a major part of that decision, really. Do you upgrade? Do you not? Because it's not just the sensor cost.
A couple of grand matters in terms of the economics of your project. Then let's have a separate, longer discussion. If you're doing a medium to big size movie or a TV series, you're making more money by being more efficient the first day of production by using the new Rocket with a Dragon than you would ever by using the old Rocket. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I got a third question, my last one, which is, can I get a Dragon sensor in a Scarlet? There's a lot of confusion. Was it yes? Is it no?
There is a lot of confusion that sometimes because Red is driving so fast, there's a lot of confusion about how we can do and what we can do. There was a very long period of time where we were trying to figure out how far along can we get a Scarlet and how much needs to change and would it be cost effective to do it? Would it actually cost you more than just buying a new camera, right? So they kept looking and over the last couple of weeks they kind of said, all right, I think we can get it right in that zone. So now there's two pathways they announced yesterday. One pathway is you can take your Scarlet to the Dragon sensor, but you don't get all the super high frame rate of a Dragon and an Epic, right? It's the same restrictions. I think it's 50 frame or 60 frame at 6K, or so, much less than you would get with an Epic version. And it's under 10,000 to do that upgrade. Or, what's probably the smarter way to go, is to upgrade your Scarlet to an Epic 5K,
and then
hop for another 10 grand to the 6K when you're ready to do that, and sort of push that way. That would be my stronger play.
We're almost out of time. Last question, Jace?
Not loaded in my brain that quickly now.
Okay, well then I'll come through with the last question, which is to say, the stuff you've been doing with the products have now spanned to you bringing in some other companies, and one of those is the shutter, the global shutter. So we haven't got time to explain it all. You can check it out obviously online and we'll post stuff about it, but that global shutter is something you've brought in-house. Is it now going to be a year before we see that as a product?
Well, again, the engineers are telling me it's summertime. It's a working product. It's in alpha form, but it's past prototyping. It's a real product. You saw at the booth. Right. It does electronic ND and global shutter on a very fast rolling shutter camera, so you turn it into a global shutter.
And that can go on any of the Scarlets and Epics?
That can go onto a Scarlet or an Epic, Canon mount or PL mount.
Right.
And then Red Ray is the other big piece of the puzzle that's now getting very close to shipping.
Okay. We're running out of time, but thanks so much. We're going to go to an O-Week cross. Ted, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Jason.
We'll come back after the break. Hi and welcome to the April 2013 term of FX PhD, where we want to help you take your career to the next level. Have a ton of amazing new courses as well as a lot of great courses brought back as repeats. We're going to get into all of those in a second. I'm going to start by talking to you about a new course I like to jokingly refer to as Pimp My Lens, but it's actually a course on lenses, and we're going to be doing that with Matt Duclos. Matt Duclos is an amazing guy, and he just knows so much about lenses, and we're going to be shooting most of this course in LA at the Duclos workshop. This is actually a Duclos lens. It's the 11 to 16. It's a phenomenally cool lens. We're looking at a whole bunch of stuff, and this should dovetail really well in with last term's DOP course if you liked that. Well, speaking about going all over the world, let's cross over to John in the States as he runs through some of the key post-production courses coming up this term at FX PhD.
I'm John Montgomery, one of the other co-founders of FX PhD, and I'm really excited to be introducing our next course, which is the Craft of Grading 2. It's a sequel to our most popular course ever here at FX PhD. Now, teaching this iteration is Chicago-based colorist Mike Matusik, and I just want to point out that on our launch day, April 1st, he and his wife had a launch, I guess, of sorts with the birth of their first child, so congratulations on that. But for this course, what's going to happen is Mike's going to teach you how to become a better colorist, regardless of what application you're using. He'll be using Baselight, but if you're using Premiere, Resolve, Final Cut, or whatever, the goal is to help you get better imagery.
Hello everyone, my name is Mike Matusik, and I'm very excited to be teaching the Craft of Grading 2 for FX PhD this term. I'll be coloring on a Baselight system, but this class is completely application agnostic, so it doesn't matter what you have at home. All the concepts will apply across all platforms, because we'll be focusing on the creative and less about the button presses. I've been a professional colorist in Chicago for over 10 years, working with top ad agencies on high-end commercial productions, and also with independent filmmakers. I've worked on multiple systems in my career, including the DaVinci 2K, the Nucoda Filmmaster, and again, currently the Baselight system. Over the years, I've developed some tricks and insights that I'd like to share with you in this course. My goals for this course are for you to gain confidence in your grading skills by learning fundamental color techniques up through advanced techniques that you can use to develop your own style and coming up with looks. We'll also discuss workflows and how to deal with red footage, Alexa footage, and various other digital formats. I'll discuss DI workflow and also coloring with 3D lookup tables. Another exciting part of the class will be a challenge that we'll hand out, where you will take footage home, color correct it, and send it back to me, and then I will give you my insight and critique your work. We also have some new footage this term. A beautiful Coca-Cola spot with creative by Joey L. and Variable. A Danko Jones music video directed by the Diamond Brothers. Some really cool underwater footage, and also some footage from a short film called Moving Day, and much more. So if you're hoping to take your grading skills to the next level, I hope you decide to take my course, The Craft of Grading 2. And I look forward to seeing you in the forums.
In our travels for FX Guide and FX PhD, Mike and I visit a lot of facilities and talk to a lot of artists. And one thing we're seeing is a wider adoption of the Foundry's Hero product. It really seems to have hit critical mass recently. In this term, we're totally excited to have a new Hero course, our first ever Hero-based course. And along with it, we have Hero available for you on the VPN to learn. It's being taught by Ugo Guerra, who works at the Mill in London, leading their commercials department in Nuke. Let's hear from him what he's got planned for the term.
Hello, my name is Ugo Guerra. It's with my pleasure that I bring the first Hero tutorial to FX PhD. For the next 10 classes, we are going to learn how to use Hero to conform and shot organize all of your visual effects productions. We're going to learn how to conform using an ADL or an XML coming from editorial. We're going to learn how to shot manage and organize all of our plates into a compositing application. And on the way, I'm going to show you quite a few tricks and tips that I've learned along this last year using Hero in more than 50 different productions. In this course, we will show Hero, the latest software from the Foundry for conforming and shot managing visual effects productions. Hero has been designed for shot management to conform and review, enabling collaborative workflows with Nuke and other editorial and finishing tools. During the next 10 classes, we will learn all the features of Hero from a production point of view. We will learn conforming from ADLs and XMLs, learn to manage and organize a full production, we will deal with versions of shots and timelines, handle the typical productions of real-world problems, and present real production-driven solutions to handle the fast-paced visual effects commercial pipeline. I really hope you enjoyed the course. I'm really looking forward for all your comments and conversations we're going to have on the forums. This is Ugo Guerra, and thank you for watching.
If you're an editor nowadays, the reality is you probably are not going to get away with knowing just an editing application. On your job, you're going to get asked to do a ton of creative tasks. And so that's why we're really excited this term to have a new course taught by Art Guillermo, who's a really talented freelance editor based in New York City. Art uses a multitude of applications to get his job done, and he's going to be sharing a lot of tips and tricks of his trade throughout the term.
Hello, I'm Art Guillermo, and I'm really excited to be here for this new term at FX PhD with Edit 203, the Freelance Editor's Toolbox. As of late, many editors are being asked to accomplish so much more than just cutting shows, starting with visual effects, as well as being the colorist and delivering the final audio mix. My goal in this course is to take you through some of the current editing workflows and get you up to speed on how to best utilize the large array of software available and bring your edits to the next level. As a network television editor, I'm going to break down some of my process using Final Cut Pro and Premiere Pro as our central hub and how I integrate them with the Adobe suite of products, DaVinci Resolve, and Autodesk Smoke. Starting with ingest using Prelude, we will work down the line and take a look how to efficiently move our edit into After Effects, Photoshop, and Mocha and accomplish some invisible effects such as sky replacements, rig and logo removal, green screen keying, split screens, and monitor replacements. We'll then bring our shots back into our NLE and prep the edit for finishing using Adobe SpeedGrade and DaVinci Resolve for color correction and grading, Audition and Soundtrack Pro for audio mixing, and Autodesk Smoke for some final touches. We will highlight the many ways to round trip into these products and the benefits and downfalls of each method in an effort to help you work as quickly and efficiently as possible. Last but not least, we will cover the necessary but very important evil of media management and archiving our work. Along the way, we will touch on all the major current NLEs, including Final Cut Pro, Final Cut Pro X, Premiere Pro, Media Composer, and Autodesk Smoke, and how to best utilize the strengths and weaknesses of each to best serve your needs while adding to your skill set and help you become more marketable in today's very competitive media landscape. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope to see you all this term.
fxguidetv Live at NAB 2013 from Las Vegas is sponsored by The Foundry, developers of creative tools for artists, including Nuke, Hero, Mari, Moto, and more. With additional support from Blackmagic Design, Miller Tripods, Rode Microphones, SohoNet, and the Wooden Camera Company. This netcast is also made possible by the contributions of our FX Insider members.
Hi and welcome to the RC section of our show. As you know, I'm Mike Seymour, Jason Wingrove. Now we do the RC on FX Guide. It's one of the regular podcasts we do. Don't know
it's the most popular one.
How long were you doing it for though? Like a few years, right?
It must be 5 years, pretty much around now actually, April. I think April 1st, uncannily enough.
So just before that last set of stuff, we were talking to Ted as a kind of a prelude to this RC, because Ted was spanning two areas. The stuff with the post workflow in terms of the Red Rocket, and of course the new sensor. So let's just close out that at the start of this segment, but this whole section of the live presentation, will go for the next about hour and a half or so, is primarily going to be focused on camera tech and stuff that we've been seeing around the show. And coming up later, after the RC, we have Adobe, we have Autodesk, a whole bunch of other stuff. If people want to ask us questions while we're talking, Jace, how are they going to do that?
Yes, twitter.com/Wingrove or Mike Seymour. And yeah, can't guarantee we'll get to questions. We've got a pretty packed show, but if you've got a question for some people on the floor, let's see what we can do.
If you hashtag it FXGuide or FXGNAB, we'll get it and they'll feed it through to us. So, Jace, we had Ted on before, and as he was leaving the booth, because he had to run to another thing, you had an interesting discussion with him quickly.
I had an ISO. One of my last questions was the ISO. We haven't really still knocked down what the native speed of the Red Dragon sensor is, and they are still, he's perfectly honest, they are still yet to finally put a number on it, but it's definitely in the 1600s to 1800, maybe even almost 2000 ISO. So it's really, one thing they had to do was to catch up with everything else that's around here. We've got Sony just doing insane things with ISO and really sensitive cameras, and that's one thing that's kind of in a way held the Epic back somewhat. So 1600 and then they're around about there.
We were talking just when Ted came on about the clean room they've got, putting those new chips, the Dragons, in the Epics. And I've got to say, it was an interesting stunt because...
very cool stunt.
Well, yeah, because the thing is, if they came to the show and said Dragon is shipping, we'd be standing here right now saying,
yeah,
where are they?
Exactly. It's beautifully done, and as you said, it's not. This is not. You know, it's not animatronics in there. That is actually. There's real text building the sensors. So it is, I mean, clearly acknowledging the fact, yes, we know we're late, but we're shipping, honest.
I don't want to be a downer or anything, but if you think about it, that can't be helping things, because the amount of work it would be to pack up a clean room and build one and reassemble it.
Yeah, I said absolute props to Jim, because I think that is a major thing, to bump it into the insanity of a trade show. If anyone's ever been to when this show is being bumped in here, it is an insane. You can't walk from one end of the hall to the other without nearly getting killed by at least 800 or 900 forklift trucks.
Well, there's 95,000 people here,
knuckle booms, and it's insane, and it's dark and it's noisy, and to try and in the middle of that build a clean room, the cleanest place on earth. That would be that area there would be the cleanest area in all of Vegas.
Yes,
no doubt.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is extraordinary. Okay, so they're putting the Dragon chips in. I mentioned the shutter really briefly at the end of that interview, but there are two things. There are two companies that they bought. They bought half of Element Technica and this shutter bit.
They did buy Tessib, is that right?
Well, the shutter is part of them, yeah.
Okay.
But Element Technica used to be two companies, became one. Now it's two companies, well, two bits.
Yes.
And one of them's gone in as the equipment bit of Red.
Yes, and the shutter bit is really quite clever. The should we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
The motion. I can't remember the name of the motion. The new, slightly highly expensive new lens mount. There will be, at the moment it's only PL. There will be an EF mount version coming because the technology is easily adaptable from one to the other. Very clever technology.
Because it's LCD, and you had a really interesting question that stumped the boffins on the.
Yes, I was surprised that I stumped them, but LCD technology essentially has. You need a polarizer in that technology. That's kind of how you do variable dark. You know, how you it's essentially kind of like a variable ND. So my question was, what happens if you put an ND in front of your lens? Are you going to have like variable ND on top of variable ND? The shutter, the mount essentially works in two ways. It'll either give you global shutter, i.e. it switches off the, it actually works over the top of the internal shutter, and it does an amazing job. There's a fantastic demo set up on the stand where they have a strobe firing. One of the main things for a shutter that has a read to it or has any kind of rolling shutter artifact is you're seeing it here that I mean it's a bit hard to demo here because it's actually been photographed by something that actually has a rolling shutter as well. But it's you actually can see, you can switch the rolling shutter on and off, and when you turn it off, you're only seeing maybe every second strobe fire. So if you're in a situation where you're doing like muzzle flashes, you've got you've got pyro going off, or flashes, paparazzi, all that sort of stuff. Generally, you'll always have that issue with the reading of the shutter and not getting every flash. But as soon as they've put the global shutter on, every single flash, everything comes through. It completely changes what it's been.
Well,
and that's the first mode. The other mode is variable ND, and that has no flicker to it. It's basically just imagine just like a piece of like it is a filter. It's gradually darkens. What it does though is it starts off as one stop. When you put that mount on, you automatically lose a stop. That's the brightest it gets. But it'll get you down to 8 stops incrementally. And you can have hotkeys on the thing if you want to have 1 stop, 2 stops, 3 stops. You can have a quick hotkey button to do that.
Okay, so my question to you is, you go to the trouble of putting a Dragon sensor in. Now you're going to get increased dynamic range, but let's say you go up to 1600 ISO. You put that on the front, you're going back to 800 ISO.
Yes, it's still got a better dynamic range with that mount on than the original MX does at the moment. So
yeah, but you lose that extra.
You are eating a bit of over. But the good thing is though, it's nothing more in terms of swapping over than the regular mount. It's the 4 bolts. You pop it on, you pop it on. So if you are in a situation where you really you're pushing for that extra stop, or you need the dynamic range, and you don't necessarily need the ND or the global shutter part, you can just unbolt it as quick as you can in the other mount, which is a really easy on-set swap.
Yeah. Now, we're going to be doing some interviews later with the guys from Blackmagic Camera, because I should say that that's probably one of the most interesting things happening at the show. Yeah. We went over to the booth yesterday, and I've got to say, we got some
cameras, really. I mean, in a way, we've kind of glossed over the one of the other 4K elephants in the room, which is 4K for 4K.
Yes, I've got some shots of the press conference at the Blackmagic booth that we were at yesterday, and I was there, obviously at the front, we were listening to what was going on. But in addition to that, we actually then had a chance to look at what was going on from the point of view of the guys at Blackmagic Camera. And you can see there, that's Grant in the middll, and I went behind him with a 14mm lens and took a shot, and he was being basically mobbed like a rock star when he launched this. So there's 2 cameras. There's the under $1,000 one and the $4,000 one.
There's the production Blackmagic 4K camera, yes, and the pocket camera.
The shot you're seeing right now, he's holding the one that is effectively the replacement for the current Blackmagic camera that in fact we're shooting on right now. So we're going to have an interview with Blackmagic Camera coming up, and here is it on the back of a serious piece of glass, and that little thing at the end that looks like an iPhone, that's the camera. It's ridiculous.
And it's beautifully made, it really is. I mean, you'll see in the interview, getting a good idea of close-up. It's sturdy.
Okay, so we've got that interview coming up. That's an iPhone comparison. We've got that interview coming up later in the show, but I just want to point out that in fact the show that we're doing right now is being shot on the Blackmagic camera. So we actually have a feed coming up. We have 3 Blackmagic cameras here going into a Blackmagic router, and we're going to do a behind the scenes video later in the show. But basically, yeah, we've got PL mount glass and we've got EF mount glass sitting on our Blackmagic cameras. We have 3, as I say, and they're feeding through to a Blackmagic switcher in the control room. That is, of course, the basis of the feed that we're going out. And it's kind of fun, actually, I've got to say, but it's slightly different for me because I'm so used to my lens definitions of a 5D or an Epic that, you know, when I first put up the 14mm this morning or yesterday on the Blackmagic camera, I actually had to go to an 8mm to get the kind of wide-angle look I wanted.
Yeah, there's still that sort of shock, which I guess soon, we haven't really got a time frame for the 4K, but the Super 35 one, I guess the days are numbered for having to make those kind of calculations.
Well, on FX Guide, I have a story about the Blackmagic camera if you want to have a check that out. But one of the really interesting things is that it got in under our new axiom, right? Because that small camera is shipping inside 90 days. As a few of you know from listening to the Red Center, we got very medieval on their ass over people announcing cameras here and not actually shipping them for a year or two.
It needs a better name, but I'm calling it the ship it or shut up. Shut up. Ship it or shut up. Yeah.
Yeah. So. There's also a whole lot of other interesting camera tech here. Now we're going to have the Movi guys hopefully coming over later. Vincent Laforet made the best film with
it was an S. If you haven't seen it, if you haven't, I don't know where have you been, but that was probably one of the best product demos and a great film. But it's a really, I can't imagine how else you would best demo that technology. Almost every single shot of that is you cannot achieve with any other stuff. There's shots there, particularly chasing the taxi cab, not achievable with a Steadicam, not achievable with a Russian arm. Every time I've seen it work, and I was at a function the other night where we were playing with it and passing it around for 2 or 3 hours, and it was it's all the more impressive in person and in the hand, and I'm just constantly watching it, going, yep. Can't do that with Steadicam. Yep, can't do that with Steadicam. That looks exactly like Steadicam. 1,000 Steadicam guys just went out of business.
The guy on the roller skates got me.
Yeah, the guy with the roller skates. He was an absolute god.
So we'll get into that when the guys come. But basically, there's a making of video that shows the guys on roller skates flying in with this camera and then flying off. I said the only way you can maybe do that is the most expensive Technocrane shot that your budget would allow.
Or you do the skateboarder guy, which is essentially what the rollerblades guy is. He's like a skating cinematographer. The only way you do it would be just handheld, but you do not get the look that this is
Segway,
achieving.
Steadicam kind of thing.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's also a bunch of new lenses, and we're going to be looking later in the show at the Cooke lenses. Now, Cooke's released anamorphics, as has Ingenue. Cooke and Ingenue have hooked up, and we got to shoot that the other night, so we'll be covering that later in the show.
Yeah, that's terrific. I love more anamorphics, bring it on. There's actually there's a couple of other companies at the show launching anamorphics as well, so the push is on. The demand is starting to push the manufacturers to get things going.
Yeah, we actually were one of the first people in the world to shoot with those anamorphics. We took them out on the strip the other night, so that's coming up later on. We'll show you some footage from that. Jace, you were doing that. We also had the Diamond Brothers who helped us do that, and they'll drop by to talk about that. We really appreciate their help. I also want to point out some of the other stuff that we've got going here. We mentioned the Blackmagic cameras. We're also using Rode mics.
Actually, this is, I talked about, clean room and building Red cameras being a real sort of patriotic moment for America. This is actually a bit of an all-Australian thing. We've got Rode mics, Australian, Blackmagic, which is Australian designed, and here the pocket camera. All of the cameras are manufactured in Australia.
And Miller tripods.
And being held up by a Miller tripod.
So we want to thank all of those guys. Sohanet's helping us out as well. And of course, we're here at the Foundry booth, and later on we'll be crossing back to some more live presentations from the Foundry. So, Jace, in just walking around generally, have you found any funky, weirdo stuff?
Not an awful lot, I must admit. I was waiting to see the guard-bot thing again and see where that would be about, the rolling ball thing we saw last year. There is an awful lot of UAVs, an awful lot of quadcopter, hexacopter, octocopters.
There's so many drone copters.
So many right at the time where they're all being shut down and grounded by the second. There's more than you can, you can walk through and see hundreds today. I don't know. I can't really sort of.
I've got to say, from my point of view, there's an enormous amount of drone stuff. There's a lot of people now doing 4K, which is interesting. There's also this term Ultra HD that you'll hear us refer to, which is this idea, and new standards for being able to pipe that around facilities that we'll come to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got to say that the camera section over in the central hall is one of the most interesting places at the NAB. I mean, obviously here in the South Hall is a lot of the post stuff, which is where Red is.
Yeah.
But most of the camera tech is in the central
I know
hall.
we say it a lot, but you can literally walk around there, even if you do it methodically, anally retentive, working your way, zigzagging through. You can still definitely miss stuff, and it takes a few days to see everything.
I'm seeing a lot of LED lights, like a real amplification of what we saw last year.
Yeah.
Now, we got really particular about LEDs over at Background Fundamentals, and inside FX PhD we did a bunch of tests on them. I learned a lot from that. One of the great LED companies over there is actually Dido. They've done a lot of work with LEDs. But yeah, there's clear to me now, there's LEDs and then there are LEDs, and getting good quality LEDs that don't have spikes in the green channel is just like really, really important.
Yeah, they're all improving their technology, some more than others, but yeah, this is probably second or third generation technology we're now seeing in this. The other thing we're seeing a lot of is Fresnels and small lights, literally, will run off a V-Lock battery that will blind you for a week. Walk past some of these stands is like dazzling. To the output that's coming from just literally a battery you can hold in your hand, or plug in, house power.
Yeah, it is extraordinary. Like the LEDs have just come from being light panels, which is what we mainly saw them at, I guess, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. A lot of them are now, Fresnel lights, and they're just really spotting up. But the thing about them that's kind of curious, and I think that's something to be careful of, is that LEDs actually have a much lower operating temperature, like around 70 degrees. You get an LED up to 80, 90 degrees, and it's actually losing its color quality dramatically. So in a studio environment, if you start hoisting those sucks up and having a normal studio that gets very hot up the top, you can actually overheat your LEDs, and that'll cause your color temperature to go off. So while I personally like them, I'm not moving away from my ARRI 650s and ARRI sort of tungsten lights right now for that kind of work. I know I'll change, but right now I'm sticking with them more in light panels.
Maybe when you've had a bit more of a walk around, I think you might change your tune.
Okay, well, coming up next on the show, we've got Stu Maschwitz coming in from Red Giant to talk about some new stuff. I've been lucky enough to have a good look at that. I don't know you have.
I have not yet. I saw the film Spy vs. Guy last night, which was astounding, which was used some of the software we're about to talk about.
That was showing, where was that?
That was in the Dell booth.
Yeah, and I saw you after that up on the strip somewhere when you were...
It's hysterical. I'm not sure if it's released out yet, but Spy vs. Guy, or Spy vs. Guy, it's by Wally, who did Plot Device. Fantastic film, hysterical. Stu and I were just wetting our pants. It's very, very funny and some brilliant work, and very much, very, very the core of indie, homebrew filmmaking.
Well, if you'll excuse me 1 second, I'll get Stu on, and then I'll get you back. So, Stu, come and join us. How are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm good. And I'm holding a microphone.
Hey.
There.
How are you? Thanks for coming by.
I see you.
So, you're bulletproof.
So bulletproof, yes.
Yeah.
T-shirt says so.
Yeah.
What gives?
Well, I don't know. We saw what we felt was a real need in the production space for a tool for shooters to not only do kind of the responsible grown-up stuff of safely capturing their footage on the set and bringing it home alive, but also communicating a lot of the creative decisions and intents that get made in the earnestness of the shooting environment that sometimes don't quite make their way back to the editor. Is that a good way of
So
putting
now,
it?
by we, you have your Red Giant hat on, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is Sean Seyfried of Red Giant, and I am, speaking in the capacity of creative director for the Magic Bullet product line.
So obviously I use your stuff and have for a while now, though I have been public in being a bit cranky about some of the naming systems that you've had in the past.
Which, by the way, we're paying attention to that.
Okay,
yeah.
but let's face it, it's been terrific at the grading level to have such amazing tools, especially if you want to process stuff quickly, which is exactly what we were doing last night, getting ready for this. I can't thank you enough for 12:30 last night when I was working, and I was just dropping looks down. It was awesome. But you're going now slightly earlier in the process to what I'm doing when I walk off the strip with my camera, right? Do you want to explain what that does?
Yeah, so it's really a media prep tool. We're looking at it as a way to do import, to do backup, to do organization, and then take the clips, get them in the right color appearance, and then export them in different formats. So you can go out, add time code to your originals, do ProRes for proxies, create dailies you put in a Dropbox, all that in one app.
Yeah, so what I liked about it is it has your, I think it's probably your influence in the UI design, because quite frankly, that can be a bit geeky and a little like confusing, and the last thing you want is any possible confusion when you're moving data around.
Exactly, yeah, I look at it from two sides. We all have our post-production brains, and our post-production brains are pretty good. They can learn to use things like Nuke and complex software, but our shooting brains, they're not so good. They're a little distracted, they're a little busy, and so we needed a UI that would put everything in its place and be super clear where your footage is, where it's going, so that you have total confidence that it's copied over safely and soundly, and that the important creative decisions that you're making on the set aren't just getting lost on a scrap of paper somewhere, and also that your footage is copied with a proper checksum and redundantly backed up to another drive. We want you to just be able to fire and forget, pop the card in yourself if you don't have someone helping you, and walk away, go continue shooting knowing that it's handled.
So from my personal point of view, and I've been using it here at the show, I used to walk in and I'd stick my card in my computer. I would then go into Lightroom and start loading Lightroom things, but I wouldn't want to load the movie files, but I would just do this direct, right? And then sometimes I wouldn't have a lot of disk space, so I'd only get half the pictures. And then what I've changed to is I'm now using you to do the whole lot to a Thunderbolt drive, and then I'm picking and choosing from there into Lightroom. So now I'm no longer requiring Lightroom to have a database management, what is Mike doing problem. That's all solved for me. Yeah.
We're huge fans of Lightroom, as you know, and I feel like as a still shooter, half of the creative process happens when I push the shutter, but the other half happens when I sit down at my giant monitor and I make those creative color decisions. And I think there are a lot of video shooters who are in a bit of a jam now because we have these great cameras that shoot flat or log or raw, and part of their creative intent might get lost in that process because they might hand over the footage and not be around for the color correction that's being done at midnight in a hotel room, So being able to at least have one pass, one light kind of color correction that travels with the footage, I think is a huge value to people whose job it is to deliver pretty pictures.
Yeah, because I shoot with cine style stuff, and I go that route because we want to have that grading flexibility, because let's face it, coming off an SLR, I don't have a lot of grading latitude. I should get it as good as I can at the early stage. Yeah. But I definitely have a workflow where I want my video treated separately, and I think one of the problems is, as you say, like that state that you're in is really like not one of worrying about files. If you're in a big production, you've got DITs, great. But if you're like we are here, where you haven't had any sleep, you just don't want to have any errors. Now, tell me, what's the kind of like policy on actually this shipping? Because we've got a bit of a thing, this NAB. We don't want to be talking about things that aren't going to appear for a year or two.
Good for you. We approve of that philosophy.
So what we're showing you today is a beta. We're going to be doing a public beta actually of this later this month. And then we're going to be shipping this in July.
Okay.
The team has gotten kind of a very hard and fast deadline. We said it's got to ship in July. That's the end of the road. We already feel like there's a tremendous amount of features. We're going to add more camera support, all that stuff. But July is when we're shipping it.
So I just realized I'd already broken my NDA by saying I've been using it, but feel free to sue me later.
It's public now.
Shame on you.
Yeah, okay, but I didn't tweet before then. But yeah, so I've been using it, and as I say, it's really good, though you are still, or you have been, incorporating ideas. So there's actually more than just me, right? There's been a bunch of really good practical. In fact, it was a bit of a fun thing seeing the names pop up of like who you're getting feedback from. But I guess that's indicative of the company's strategy, right? It just feels like it's kind of more user-driven than...
No, for sure. I mean, a lot of this is coming from Stu and his experience. Myself, I'm part of the product design team to make sure we're interpreting that. We have a woman, Sandy Alves, who used to work on Photoshop and Lightroom, and she takes Stu's ideas and molds that into something that's usable. And then we have Seth and Aaron on set, and they tell us what they need to make a film and make it efficient.
How much is it going to cost? Because I haven't paid for it.
It's $199.
$199?
Same as Pluralize.
So we've only got a couple of minutes to finish up, but do you want to give us a hit on what's happening with the other products?
Absolutely. So Pluralize for Windows isn't shipping yet, the version 3. We're going to be shipping that next month.
Okay, can I just say right off, sorry to interrupt, but Pluralize, it's awesome that it found a home with you.
Thank you.
Well, it's easy to imagine when you look at what Bulletproof is and what Pluralize is. It's easy to imagine, you know, without making any promises, that there's a glorious future there with those two technologies coming together.
Thank you for that hint.
Well, even in 1.0, we're building some hooks between them so we can drag and drop media. And if you've set camera metadata, we'll interpret that, put that in the proper bin, take an audio file, know that's an audio file, and then all you have to do is press sync.
But I interrupted you. You're, I hope, heading towards the color grading stuff.
Well, looks is we're going through a bit of a rethink on our color engine and our updating our GL engine, which we haven't done for about 5 years.
One of the things you'll see if you look at if you come by the Red Giant booth and you look at Bulletproof in action, is that for us, having had things like Colorista and Looks always being kind of sequestered as a plugin, we haven't really been able to stretch our wings and fly, and now the Red Giant developers have finally been able to do a full OpenGL accelerated. They own the entire display, so you're seeing Colorista color correction playing in real time on a laptop. It's a glorious thing. We've gotten a taste for it, and we want to bring all of our color grading tools kind of to that level of interactivity.
Yeah, because I mean, the point I was making earlier, and I guess I should emphasize it again, is one of the reasons that I mentioned that stuff about the video and the stills is I use Looks on my stills, but the same things apply to my videos, and that's my work habit is to take stills while I'm filming, not least of which is we normally want it to check focus, and it was just a habit I got in. Tyler taught me this, and so then I got into this thing, I just have a play with them in Lightroom because it's such a good tool, and now I've done all this on a still, I'm now going to want to do it to video, and that is like something that the company really embraces, not having them as two separate camps.
Yeah, no, now that Bulletproof is on its way out the door, it's going to be fun for me to actually turn my focus back to Colorista and Magic Bullet Looks and start working on the next generation of that stuff. We've got some really cool ideas.
And I should also point out that in addition to yourself, obviously, there are plug-in packs where you can get other really good filmmakers and colorists who have actually provided looks. So if you want to sort of look like you're better than you are, which is what I do, you can actually lean on the guys. Do you want to just mention those? Because I think they're really good and we haven't focused on them much.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, Stu has a pack, for sure. Simon Walker, who's demonstrating our booth, has a really great one for weddings. Nick Campbell has done this nice pack that gives you old-style Polaroid kind of looks. They're really cool. So yeah, we have a number of those.
Eric Escobar has his indie looks. Yeah, you know, I want to just say one quick thing about that, which is that, you know, it's great to hear you admit that you use the presets, and I think like there's a little bit of a shame to that, but I don't think there should be. What we've really tried to do with Looks,
I've come out of the closet.
But what we've tried to do with Looks is give you presets that are a good start and make it so easy for you to just tweak them just a little bit and make it your own. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're being creative. You're responding to an image. You're making it your own. It's fine.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got to say, I was against that. We were sitting in a hotel room in New Zealand, and you started doing stuff, and I was like half asleep, and I literally started going, what did you just do? And you were like, yeah, why aren't you doing that? And I was like, this was like a year or two ago, right? 3 years, whatever it was. And it was like my aha moment where I was like, oh, I'm like way out of the sync here. So yeah, it was brilliant. So thanks for that. Okay, so just to finish up, all that stuff obviously here in the booth, but of course on the website for people that are watching around the world. And that public beta, they would just go to the site, yeah?
Go to our website, click on the Bulletproof page, and sign up for the public beta.
Okay, and I think you said it was like a $199?
$199 price.
Okay, cool. Well, I think we're out of time. Thank you so much, Stu, for dropping by. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks,
I really appreciate it, and thank you for saving my ass at 12:30 last night when I was half asleep.
Awesome.
So Jace is going to join me again. Okay, so I don't know if you're on that beta. I was. I wasn't allowed to talk about it, right? But it was exactly what I was using last night. Like I saw you heading back to the suite to do a treatment.
I'm very keen to have a play.
And you know what? I'm going to swap sides with you because I can't hear you with my earpiece. There we go.
Speaking to your good in here.
There we go. I got my good ear now. It's like I'm deaf, right, on my mic here. So yeah, so I saw you heading off to do a treatment at the hotel. I was going to a different hotel in the other direction, and I got back and it was really late, and I was like, I got to prepare stuff for the show. I know what I'm going to do. But I just started using some presets and putting it together. I mean, you know, it's the reality of what you're doing.
Yeah, there's a lot happening and not much time to get everything ready for this show. You have to see the show and have everything prepped ready to report on the show while it's still half-baked.
Yeah, no, it really is. It is tough. Okay, so still coming up in the show, we're going to be looking at those Cooke lenses. In fact, we might look at those Cooke lenses really soon when we can find where the Diamond Brothers have gone and get them to join us to discuss that, because the Diamond Brothers, who are shooters out of New York, and very much in your sort of stews that world of people that are working professionals. Obviously, I don't shoot professionally full-time. Jason obviously does as a director. And they were helping out at our shoot with Cooke, but also coming up later in the show is how we've been talking to Black Magic. We're going to be looking at the Movi. We're going to be looking at a bunch of other camera tech. But I don't see the Diamond Brothers, so we'll just spin until we
talk about Sony's announcement?
Let's do that. I didn't
Sunday.
get to the Sony press conference. I was heading for those new lenses, but how'd it go?
Well, I got a little sort of, I wasn't really going to attend because I really thought Sony had announced everything they were going to announce. Sorry, someone's trying to ring me. But yeah, someone said, you might want to attend this press release. So we really don't know an awful lot. There's nothing coming out about these two cameras too much, apart from they said they're 4K, two different form factors. We don't even know sensor size. We don't really know release date. So,
I mean, I'm looking at it, but I'm not
so
recognizing
these are not on the show floor. They were only just quickly wheeled on at the last minute at the end of all their other announcements. There's, I guess, a more of a studio kind of, it looks like a small 4K, like an Epic
Oh, it's a 4K kind of Epic
both
type
4K
camera.
digital cinema cameras.
Digital cinema camera.
Both have the Sony FZ ZF mount that goes through to PL, and then obviously there's a lot of adapters now to go to any of those things, and the DSLR. So this looks very interesting.
So this is this one on the show floor or not?
No, neither of these two. They're both sort of basically just unicorn cameras at the moment. We don't know very much other than here's two cameras, won't see them on show floor, have a quick snap, thank you very much.
It's actually interesting that Sony's doing that, isn't it? Because Sony in the past would never actually do that.
Yeah.
Oh, you got that same shot that I like so much, which is the massive iPhones and cameras.
Yes, this was a much bigger hall full of people all rushing up to the stage.
Did you see any footage from these 4K cameras?
No, nothing announced from the cameras whatsoever, other than we have these in the pipeline. Look at the cool stuff we've got coming. Now, if you think about Sony, it's got a pretty quick turnaround of these things. Generally, when they announce something at NAB, probably this time next year, we'll be seeing them, shooting them, maybe even have them delivered. So I think, Sony are definitely very good at announcing stuff.
A good example of that is, speaking today, is Claudio Miranda from the DOP from Oblivion.
Yes.
Now, he shot that on the F65. We have an interview coming up with that on FxGuide, not today, but after the show when the film Oblivion releases. But I got to talk to him already. He's doing a presentation here as well. Was he at that event? Because I know Sony were very enthusiastic.
Yes, I just missed him. Yes, he had just spoken.
Because he shot on the F65.
F65, yeah.
As did
I can't wait to see that film. That looks stunning.
Right?
As did After Earth.
Yeah.
Correct.
After
Earth is a little bit further on, and a little more production. They're doing scoring the music, and they're getting down to the last final post. Yeah, I mean, we really know very little about these cameras, except I'm sure we'll see them soon. I'm very keen to know whether either of them will have a full frame. Maybe the DSLR. I'd like to think that the DSLR form factor camera hopefully will have 4K full frame. I imagine both of them are going to have at least the XAVC codec, which is looking like a really good codec, same codec that came out with the F55.
Well, I was going to say the F55 because we're talking about the F65, which we saw here first. Then it came out pretty quickly, and they were shooting features with it. And now you're talking about these new cameras. In the middle is that whole F55.
Yeah, which I think essentially what we're probably looking at there for that smaller camera is probably going to replace the F3, which is you're looking probably. I think it may, if it hasn't already, it's probably about to be end of life, I'd say.
Right.
It's done its job. It did a great, it helped them develop the F55. There's a lot of DNA in there, and they've learned a lot doing that. So I can only imagine that's where it sits in there.
It feels to me like there's been a bit of a climate change with Sony. They seem, I mean, I don't want to be rude or anything, but like go back a few years, they were an impenetrable wall of kind of, it almost felt arrogant.
Well, look at all the stuff, memory sticks, all of the stuff they did with mini disc. They kept coming up with these proprietary codecs all the time. So now having open source essentially, or quite open SDKs, and that is, I mean, you can drag and drop F55 footage in a lot of stuff now, and there's a lot you can. I think the other day I was playing with the F55 footage, and I had it on my Mac Pro, had the 4K. I had the XAVC, not the raw footage, but I could drag and drop it into Premiere and play it. It was playing at full resolution, no drop frames. I was playing 4K, beautiful footage, and I actually thought, well, this is interesting. I pulled out the GPU card, and it was still. I just had a little crappy little GUI card just so I could see what was going on. But I could play 4K, beautiful, a good size codec, real time at full resolution onto my desktop in Premiere. So that's what open codecs can do.
We're going to get the Diamond Brothers to join us in a minute or two, but I have two things for you. First, that point you made about Premiere I think is really interesting, because I've been doing some stuff with Premiere R3D workflows where we're basically not using the Red Rocket card, and by bringing it into a 1080 timeline, actually watching that stuff in real time, though the preview is not full res.
Yeah.
So I'm actually backing off from that Red Rocket 2, thinking I'm going to spend that money maybe on just making sure I've got a CUDA card with lots of RAM. And to get a CUDA card in a Mac, which I'm on, I need to be a MacBook. But that's an interesting way to work.
Yeah, and the RAW is drag and drop as well. It plays about the same as an R3 does, but again, if you can put you don't have to have a $6,000 card to crunch through it.
So on the last RC you and I did, which was a preview to this show, you and I discussed the Unicorn camera, and someone's tweeted that they want to know, have you found your Unicorn camera? Have you found a camera here that does all the things that you want?
Well,
that's it.
Maybe the Sony.
Maybe the Sony.
Maybe the Sony. Maybe the Sony. Well, that's yeah. Maybe the Sony, because that's the if it does full frame and it has a reasonable codec that's not going to eat through terabytes a minute, because the RAW, the F55 RAW, is staggeringly huge. Codec. That's what I'm hoping that the XAVC is going to be 4K or really high resolution codec, and give us a lot of nice information. Give us something really gradable that's beyond DSLR mushiness, and be a small file. So yeah, I'm hoping that DSLR will do it, because if it's got that FZ mount, that means it's flexible, like the Epic is. I can swap the mount over. I can make it run and gun DSLR, and it's going to have an electronic viewfinder that's going to hopefully work, and you can actually handhold it with no ergonomic rigs and shoulder pads, having to spend another 5,000 man hours and $5,000 in rigs and things to actually make it handholdable. And then to be able to swap it over, put a PL mount on, and build it up and use it on set like a grown-up. So could be.
Okay.
Unicorn in the making.
Well, as I said earlier in the show, we went out with the brand new Cook lenses. I'm going to show you now some footage that we shot out on the strip with Jason and the Diamond Brothers. This is just a very rough edit, because literally these these lenses are so new that they've been shown here for the first time at the show. So it's an anamorphic Cook, and it was a 40mm. Jason, you were directing, and we're going to get this up
as much as you can direct people on the strip. As much as you can direct an Elvis. Yeah, no, it's so yeah. What we're seeing is the 40mm. Talk us through what the lens is.
It was a 40mm anamorphic.
You guys.
2.2.
2 prime, yeah.
Yeah, it was 6 pounds. It's actually hand holdable. Actually,
and
on an Epic.
It's just monopoded, small tripod monopoded. Yeah.
And I think it was one thing, especially with that shot, showed that it has it's quite a really nice close focus.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the close focus was 2 feet 9 inches, I believe.
Yeah, and that's from film plane. So when you've got a lens that's nearly a foot long,
exactly.
It's pretty close. You're not quite getting quite close, which is traditionally been an issue with is one of the downfalls of anamorphics traditionally.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, it looks.
I like the bokeh gets a little square too at times, which I kind of like.
Yeah, and you can get it to flare. We didn't really have all the full, we didn't have the full Star Trek flare.
No, we left our flare your own lens J.J. Abrams kit at home.
iPhone.
I think there's a booth here with the J.J. Abrams lens flare kit.
Excellent. We'll have to.
So for the guys that don't know you guys, just you've been doing some awesome work lately. So I just want to fill in some background. So we've obviously, known you for ages, but a lot of people watching the show that don't. So you guys are based in New York.
We're based in New York. We are directors, producers, editors. We have a production company called The Hidden Fortress. Our director's brand is the Diamond Brothers. And we do We've been doing a lot of work with Sesame Street lately.
I was going to say, you've got probably the largest number of hits of anyone that's going to be on the show today.
Yeah,
through the
like 15 million.
15 million hits. Do you want to explain what that was? Because I thought it was awesome.
Well, Sesame Street likes to do this secondary content for their YouTube channel, and they wanted to do the parody of the Carly Rae Jepsen song "Call Me Maybe," but with "Share It Maybe" with Cookie Monster. And so they came to us with a basic idea and said, you have basically 5 hours with Cookie Monster. Here's the rough idea of what we want to do in our office. Can you do it?
Go.
Okay, but you guys also do a lot of film clips and other stuff and stuff. So you were shooting with Jason with that Cook. I mean, is that a lens that you think you could see being used in production? I mean, does that interest you, like at that level?
Absolutely. I'm an anamorphic junkie. So we just shot a music video in LA and we used some Russian Lomo, old school, weird, soft, creamy anamorphics. And, you know, it's addicting.
Yeah,
you know, and Cook, obviously, you're going to want to use a Cook anamorphic.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love Cook lenses, yeah. So, Jace, we have the Movi stuff here, and the Diamond Brothers helped us get this, so I want to thank you guys for helping to do that.
Timur, Savon, and Vince LaFerre were the...
I think we need a bigger stage.
Yeah, well, they were the brains behind
really tall.
putting this together with Tab.
So that's all right, we're going to go wide so we can see what's going on.
Yeah.
So let's just bring it in here. Come in right now.
So,
okay, so actually, why don't you guys start by just explaining what we've got here?
It's called the Movi. It's a lightweight digital 3-axis gyro-stabilized gimbal that's meant to be moved around by a human. We took some of the technology we developed for small unmanned helicopters, and we turned it into a package that you can carry around in your hand.
Okay. Am I allowed to hold it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Only if you run around like a man
than I expected. I expected it to be like really heavy.
So right now it's set up in a mode where if you pan, it'll pan with you. It's called majestic mode. It smooths all your movements out, though.
Okay.
The rate at which it pans
beautifully
is super
fluid.
majestic. It's majestic.
That's a great
That
name.
is majestic.
So now I could.
So you can go low to high.
Okay, and it's. How is it doing that? Is it? I expected there to be, because I've shot with gyros and they're big and heavy.
Those are mechanical gyros. This is all digital, so it's a system of sensors which are feeding back to motors on each axis, and they're countering your movement.
Jace, you want to go? So the question I have is, in the videos that I saw you doing, it was obviously panning separately to what I was just doing then.
Yeah, so there's another mode that's a remote operator mode where someone with a controller and a monitor can control the framing. So a lot of the more complex shots that we're doing dual operator mode, so I can run around and focus on not falling. We gave it to a rollerblader who was skating in traffic in New York, and there's a guy just sitting there focused completely on framing. So the division of labor on that I think is really powerful.
Okay, so I was curious to get the take that you guys had on this, like Jason and Josh, because I mean this is something that you guys saw even before we did, and as filmmakers, like.
I mean, I think that to say that it's like mind-blowing is kind of a given, because and a lot of people have said as the show's gone on that, well, you know, they just took a blah 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 off a helicopter and or whatever. I'm like, well, but yeah, so that's what they did.
Right, but they did
I don't see your booth with that thing up the helicopter.
Yes, you can sit at home and talk about it on the internet.
Or whatever it is out. It's irrelevant, right? And it's solid. It works. We've seen it work, and Vince's movie alone is the perfect explanation of what it does. I mean,
so Josh, you've been over to their booth.
Yeah.
You've seen what? Just explain the sort of other rigs that you saw there.
Oh, they have the what is that? The really tiny copter with the GoPro on it.
Yeah, we have a micro quad that's got a GoPro 3. We've got a car that's got a Movi mounted to it, RC car. It goes about 60 miles an hour.
That you need to go look at.
Yeah.
And then we've got our background is remote helicopters with stabilized gimbals, so we've got a bunch of those on display as well.
And now this one, can I hold it again?
Yeah.
So I just
put it in the other mode where it stays.
Whatever's happening, someone take a still of this. Okay, so this one is which, because there's like more than one of these.
This is the M10, so this is targeting like a 10-pound camera package.
Okay, but like, just explain to me, in terms of the product line, what you're expecting to come out. Is this the middle one, the big one?
This is the middle one. This is designed to do up to like an Epic with a same type of prime, a 24 Cine prime.
Okay.
And then we'll have a bigger one. This is a 20-pound package catered for higher end gear, and then a smaller one catered for DSLR.
Okay, so what's the availability? Because Jason and I are a bit cranky about talking about things that aren't real, but this is very real. I can see it right here.
Yeah, I have my money. When do I get one?
We've received a lot of demand, so we're saying Q3 delivery.
So just give me months, because I'm...
June, July,
He's
August.
Australian, he doesn't know about
Qs.
Qs.
I don't understand Qs.
Yeah.
So June, July on what, this one?
Yeah, the M10.
And is this designed so that it would be a rental house deal, or is this designed so that I could own it? I mean, is it like $100,000 or?
No, it's $15,000. And that comes with batteries and a remote controller. So a big thing for us is we've all worked with these crazy stabilized systems that are millions of dollars and $500,000, and you got to buy a $2 million helicopter. And they're amazing and they're fantastic, but we wanted to bring, it's so magical to use those systems, and we wanted to make it available to a different demographic. And that's the hope with this.
So to be able to do handoff shots that can be basically seamless.
Yeah.
That alone, to stitch, to physically stitch scenes together is, I think,
to me, I feel like this is more of an owner-operator item than a rental house item, but that's just me.
That's our hope. Yeah. You got any handle on how much below that number we're going to get the baby one?
$7,500. It'll be under $7,500.
Wow. Okay, and then now there's going to be a bigger one because somebody's going to want to put it on with
or something.
Yeah.
People want to run like an Epic with a zoom, or Alexa M with a zoom, that kind of thing, and we hear that and we'll make it.
But that'll be easy rig, right?
Yeah, I think you're either going to have to be incredibly strong for it, or easy rig, or mount to a Steadicam arm.
Right.
So what kind of camera platform is the small one aimed at then?
DSLR size, like 5D Mark II and under.
Yeah, smaller DSLRs with more
not
GH2 EOS glass.
Not a Cine Prime with follow focus, and a more simple setup.
And we talked about pricing of that one.
What's that?
The pricing of the smaller one?
Oh, $7,500 or under.
So Jason can afford that.
Yeah. What about pricing for the big boy?
I'm not sure on that one yet. We've got a whole bunch of features we've been working on, kind of catered for the cinema crowd, so we have to define exactly what that one will do.
Right. Yeah. Excellent.
Well, I'm really impressed, and I've got to say, we said this before you came on, the actual Vince LaForette video that you did, I mean, that was probably the best product demo I've ever seen. It was spectacularly good. The making of alone was, we were just playing that roller skating shot where it goes off to the blading shot, comes up to the taxi, holds on the taxi, and then swings off. Oh my God, that was brilliant.
So at that point, we only had one prototype of this, and the skater, we're trusting everything with him. He did a fantastic job.
So I'm just going to ask, do we have any footage from the making of video that we haven't? No, it's online though, right? So can we get the URL? It's on YouTube.
It's on Vimeo.
Vimeo. Okay,
Vimeo.
Yep.
And this is
spectacular.
so it's important to stress. I think this is a platform that's not just tied to this handheld rig, right? Because this is exactly what we saw at the booth today on essentially on a very large off-road RC car.
Yeah. So we want to mount this thing to anything that moves in an interesting way.
Yeah, it looks like it's essentially an RC car with a giant cheese plate on it.
It is.
And this is sitting. This gimbal is just sitting on top
of
it.
You could actually make a very makeshift camera crane out of, and it doesn't even need to have hinges or anything. You can literally have a pole with a pivot.
We have one in the shop. It's just a giant carbon tube that we swing around.
Yeah, and then you got instant Libra head.
Yeah.
Genius.
Well, because of the remote control, which I don't think you've talked about, the secondary remote operation of the camera.
Yeah, so it's an option. You can have a remote operator controlling pan and tilt while someone's just moving it, or a crane, or mounted to it, whatever.
Right. So on Vince's movie, you had the true split. You had the rig operator, the RC operator.
You got the controller here.
Well, we're going to wrap it up there. You guys are having so much fun. Why don't you wander off and have a chat? Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Congratulations. I think it's like one of the most impressive things I've seen in years. So
Thank you.
I
think it's pretty fair to say that it is a game changer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thanks so much, guys, and thank you guys. Appreciate it.
We're going to go play with RC cars.
You go for it, man. Okay, so while the guys are heading off, we're going to cross over to a piece we shot earlier at Wooden Camera. So Wooden Camera is providing a lot of the rigs that we're using here at the show, and I'm actually going to ask our camera operator to step in here. So this is one of the Wooden Camera rigs that we've been shooting with, and I thought, hey, it'd be really good to shoot and do stuff that was handheld, as well as obviously stuff off the tripod. And I use Wooden Camera. Jason, you've used Wooden Camera?
Yeah, lots of it.
So, Jason, you actually went over and spoke to the guys who are setting up pre-NAB, so we can actually have a good rundown of what is happening. Because for a lot of people, this is the kind of stuff that we're using every day to do stuff.
Yeah, every year Ryan and Wooden Camera has an off show kind of sneak peek, I guess, for friends of Wooden Camera, and they have everything laid out, and it's a much more quieter, relaxed place to actually have a really good look at everything they have.
Okay, let's go to that footage now.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having us. So I've got a couple of questions before we start to get into the gear. First of all, how you came to, I mean, you had a background in production, right? How did you get from one thing to making gear?
Yeah, we started with the Red 1 and shooting on that, and when the Epic came out, we saw that there was a need for a converter from the 3.5 stereo jacks to XLR, and so we started with the A-Box, and that was our first product. And then from there, we built cheese plates and handles, and finally got up to studio accessories.
So all of this stuff here was sort of born out of a frustration of working with the gear on set, particularly sound to begin with.
Yeah.
Because there was that period there, wasn't there, when the Epics were out and there was no accessories, or very few. There was some limited stuff that Red was bringing out, and there were delays in that.
Sure.
So you had a built-in sort of instant demand. The camera was wildly popular.
Yeah, and it needed a lot of help to make it production ready. I mean, we had handles and lightweight support brackets, bridge plates, power accessories, pretty much anything you need to make your camera production ready.
So actually, I had to remember to ask, the origin of the name. It kind of makes sense now that you've got these wooden cameras to help you kind of display the stuff and work out measurements and things. But what's the original genesis of the name?
So we made a short film where we set a wooden camera on fire, and so then we kind of called our production company Wooden Camera. And then when we made the transition to making accessories, the name stuck, and then we just have used that as kind of a marketing tool to show our accessories.
It looks great on the booth.
Yeah.
Okay, so so this stuff's all been out for a while and been incredibly popular. And Blackmagic, this has been out for a while, so this has been two very, very popular cameras. So we're going to talk about the new one, the F55. So there's a bunch of gear here. Why don't you just run us through the stuff that's new today?
Yeah, so the F55, we have our top plate here, which is custom to the camera. It form fits to the top. And then our top handle with a Sony EVF adapter bracket. From there, you take your original Sony EVF mount off of your handle and put it onto ours.
So was there something fundamentally wrong with what Sony had done on the top here?
No, I mean, their handle and EVF holder were functional, but if you wanted to add Noga arms or rod mounts or other things, you couldn't do that.
Never have enough quarter-20s.
And so, yeah, we covered it with quarter-20s and 3/8.
Okay, so what's this pin here?
Yeah, so the PL mount and the FZ mount are very similar. So we have a pin here to prevent someone from accidentally turning the FZ mount instead of the PL mount. So if you send your camera out on rental, you can be assured that the customer won't accidentally drop your lenses. Yeah. And then underneath the camera, we have our new base plate system. In this case, this is actually our fixed base for the Sony F55. And we have a shoulder pad and airy rosette bracket on the front for attaching.
Yes, very keen on this one. So this is actually, will work with, if you've got previous base plates, bottom plates for Epic and other things, if it's got the quarter-20s on the front, you can use this on it? Or is
this one is specific to our lightweight support base. So the rosette brackets match any of our new line of either fixed or quick release base plates.
Right, okay, so it's not the fixed version. Let's go through the quick release, which is really interesting.
So this is our new DSLR cage with a quick release feature. It's height adjustable, so we have the 1DC here, but if you have like a 5D or a T3i, which this is the T3i, we have a version that's much shorter and it'll fit the camera well. To quick release, you just turn the thumb screw, push the little safety pin down and slide the camera back. And then now you have your DSLR in your hand for shooting photos, which is nice because you can still look through the eyepiece. It's also very useful because you have a second grip there for your hand.
Right, okay. And so with the bottom plate and the top plate here for, like, say, this one as well, this is C-Series.
Yes, this is our new base plate system for the C100, 300, and 500. They're all the same. And we've carried the same concept, so like we saw with the DSLR cage, you just turn the thumb screw, push the pin down, and slide your rig back. But you'll see that the lens has unplugged from the matte box, which is useful because you don't have to mess with either
touch any of
swing
that.
away or unhinge or whatever. Then you pull your camera straight off for shooting in a very compact handheld
Works so
mode.
well for this camera because it's ergonomically really clever for waist height, eye height, and then again just put it straight on the shoulder.
And another great feature about the quick release is you can actually attach this to an Airy style dovetail. We use the same geometry, so you can just pop this onto your tripod and slide it forward.
Beautiful.
Clamp it down.
Thank you for not inventing any new standards.
No, it's great because you don't have to buy additional quick release plates. You can use the dovetails you already have.
Okay, so this bottom bit is constant through all of the cameras, and you just buy the top plate for the bottom plate for the camera to match.
Some of the top quick release plates are different, and that's just to match the Canon or the Sony, that sort of thing.
Excellent. Okay, well that's fantastic. New rigs for new cameras. Tell me I can at least have this plate on my Epic.
Well, we do actually have a version for the Epic. This takes the place of the Easy Riser. It's a shim plate for Airy style bridge plates. But it also lets you use your original safety arms and side plates and that sort of thing. It's the same idea. Turn the thumb screw, push the pin down, pop your camera off.
Genius. So then you'll be going, leaving all your lightweight rods and everything behind and just going to the raw Epic in your hand.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Okay, so next final trick, $64,000 question. When can we get our hands on this stuff?
It'll all be shipping in about a week.
Well, actually, I've got to commend you on that because one thing you do against most of the industry is when you announce something and you launch it, generally it's very short turnaround to be able to get your hands on it. So
thanks.
That's commendable. Thanks,
Thank
Ron. Well done. Cheers.